I get this series requested a lot, and it always came down to needing copies of them. And Xbox copies cost about $20 each. It's just easier to record on Xbox 360. But luckily, the first game in the series was ported over to Steam Early Access for nearly half the cost.
I never played any of these games. I remember seeing some of the ads where a guy with an Australian accent was trying to make the game sound like it was the most badass thing ever. But you could tell that he was just waiting for them to cut him a check so he could get out there as fast as he could. And the music that played in the background didn't match the tone of the commercial. The magazine ads were pretty much the same thing. It was an ad campaign that couldn't have made me less interested in the series. Having Crash, Spyro, and Sonic in the ads only showed how desperate they were, especially since Ty looks like a Sonic character. It looks like a Sonic fan trying to push their own fan character to try and say that it was better than the original. Their ad campaign just wasn't good for their first game. It was the 2002 equivalent of Sega does what Nintendo don't. I don't remember there being any ads for the second or third games either. I was surprised to find out that they had made it a trilogy, so the first game must have done well enough to warrant 2 3D sequels and a 4th 2D game that's on Steam. For this game, development started in 2000, consisting of 5 people from Crumb Studios, which is located in Brisbane, then expanded to 40 plus an additional 15 for quality assurance. They drew inspiration from the Australian landscapes, so the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. The game's graphics are pretty good for the PS2. The reflection of the water is nice and the lighting is pretty good. The only thing that I find weird is Ty's mouth. They're going for a Sonic look where the mouth is at the side, but they have it at both sides so it looks like it's merged into one solid piece, making it look like he has 2 mouths, only showing that it's one big one when he bites. The sound design is alright. I really can't stand the characters' voices, as the heavy usage of Australian slang being haphazardly thrown around can get really irritating very quickly. It's possible to skip through some of it though. I just hope you're a fast reader, as you don't want to miss anything that you'll need to know. The music is okay. I don't think it's anything to write home about, but it's not unpleasant.
As for gameplay, it's almost exactly like Jak and Daxter. Now, I'm not going to go as far and say they were copying the game, but there are some striking similarities.
Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is a collect-a-thon platform game. You go around collecting opals, which look like the precursor orbs and even make a similar sound, while you look for thunder eggs, serving the same purpose as the power cells in the first Jak game. They function as a method of progression. You can only get to the boss stage after collecting a certain number of them. Even the progress screen is similar to that of Jak and Daxter. But Ty isn't an open world. You have a hub area with portals that you need to go through. The hub expands larger as you progress and get new abilities. As for control, Ty is kinda slippery and he can be finicky when it comes to grabbing ledges, sometimes not grabbing at all even though he should be able to. But other than that, he controls pretty well. He jumps about and throws twin boomerangs, getting more types the more you progress, either by beating bosses or by finding golden cogs that aren't that well hidden in the levels. There's no need to really aim, as the game locks on enemies pretty easily as long as they're within the attack radius. Some enemies can be bitten too. In fact, some need a combination of boomerang attacks and biting to be taken care of. The bite attack acts as something as a homing attack too. Ty can also glide by pressing the jump button again in midair and swim underwater for a very long time. There's picnic baskets that when destroyed will contain pies that will replenish your health, a magnet that will draw in opals for a short period of time or an extra life. There's also green rocks that are rare and will make you invincible as a monster appears around you, allowing you to attack by smashing the ground, but you can't glide until the power-up disappears. The gameplay has you going around looking for thunder eggs, either by doing quests for other characters, completing challenges, or just find them laying about. You need at least 52 thunder eggs to beat the game, and they're extremely easy to get. The game shouldn't take you more than 7 hours to beat, maybe 8 to 9 hours to 100% the game. It also holds your hand pretty much the entire time, telling you exactly what to do to complete quests or how to use certain abilities. But when it comes to a boss fight, the game throws you into a viper pit. The first boss is a little obvious, as the boar runs around an arena with pillar-shaped rocks. After trying to hit the boss's backside and seeing that doesn't work, you can figure out that the boss needs to run into the pillars. The second boss, however, isn't as obvious. You see that there's dumpsters full of chum, so you attack them and they explode and a bucket falls into the water. The shark starts chewing on it. So you throw your flamerangs at the boss since they're your new weapon. Nothing works. So you dive into the water to look for something, but you don't see anything. It looks like the beach areas you've been to. Well, you need to look for tiny streams of air bubbles, which are coming from air tanks buried at the bottom of the floor. They're not easy to see, so if you don't know what to look for, you're gonna miss it. You hit the air tank, so this way it rises to the surface. The shark starts chewing on it, and then you use the flamerang as the shark chews on it to make it explode. The third boss is a giant yeti that smashes the ground and there's things shooting out flames. Alright, so obviously you need to burn the yeti's hands, right? Nope. You need to use a flamerang to burn the fur off his legs, arms, and chest to expose its mechanical parts. Then use a flamerang on the fire pits to send flames onto the boss to melt it into the ice. Then once it's stuck in the ice, you finally use your frozerang to hit a very small part on top of the head. Nothing prepares you for these bosses, so you're going in blind. The sub-bosses, however, are a very different story. Like Nettie the Bully, you think it's like the boar boss, just make him smash into the walls. No, you jump over him and hit him in the back with a boomerang, just how you'd think the boar boss encounter would go. Sly uses a combination of boomerangs and bite attacks, and Shadow the Bat is a matter of hitting switches. So the game teaches you how to deal with the sub-bosses, but not the actual bosses. I would imagine that for a kid, these encounters would be frustrating, as the game has done nothing to prepare you for the boss, nor does it give you any instructions like it has liberally done for the other levels. The final boss, however, is obvious. You ice the cannons and bite them, then you go inside the giant machine and destroy the wiring with flamerangs since they're covered in ice. But then the third part, which gives you the doomerang, and the game doesn't tell you how to use it at all, so it may hit the ground a few times until you realize that you can control it.
The game is like an overprotective mother with Alzheimer's, holding your hand constantly until you're in the middle of the street and it forgot you were there and let's go.
Granted, the bosses aren't hard or even challenging, it's just a lack of consistency. It annoyingly holds your hand until the boss stage. When it comes to the levels, they're not very diverse. The first stage is a grassy hill area, then the second and third are a rainforest and a beach. The fourth, fifth, and sixth stages are a canyon with a road, a snow-covered mountain, and a swamp. The seventh, eighth, and ninth are a rainforest, a beach, and a snowy mountain. The 10th level is also a rainforest, so the assets for the rainforest are reused 3 times. The beach and snow assets are reused twice. It almost feels like it was rushed, as the more interesting set pieces are only used once, while the more dull ones are used multiple times. When it comes to story, it couldn't be any more kid-friendly to the point of pandering. I couldn't even pay attention to it. It has something to do with talismans, a dream dimension, and a bad guy. I even skipped cutscenes because it was just something that I couldn't put myself through. It's like babysitting a kid who's really into Teletubbies. It's probably good, but just not in my age bracket. This is really a game that's the definition of a kid's game. There's no challenge to the game at all. It throws extra lives at you. If you die, you respawn at an outhouse with all your current progress intact, so there's no need to worry about a setback. If you die during a boss fight, you just respawn with a boss at whatever its health bar was when you died, so there's no penalty. Once I got stuck on rocks and had to exit the level, went back in, and my progress was still saved. I can see why people liked this game back when it was released. It's not a bad game by any means, but it hasn't aged well at all. Gameplay wise, it's very much like Banjo-Kazooie. You go around looking for items to progress to the next areas, but there's no charm to any of the characters, seemingly devoid of any personality. The levels are okay, but not very imaginative. The game holds your hand to annoying degrees only to nail it to a cross when it comes to a boss fight. I will say that the game, for an early access game for PC on Steam, runs very well. It looks good and you can play it from start to finish with no issues. I suggest getting it now, as Chrome Studios has admitted that once the game leaves early access later this year, that they're going to be jacking up the price.
Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is in no way a bad game. Back in the day, this was probably a really good game for a little kid. But as an adult, it's just okay. There's things about it that'll probably annoy you and make you put it down and play something else.